Welcome back as we continue our discussion on the crucial Iran nuclear talks taking place in Vienna. I'm joined now from Madrid by Seyed Hossein Mousavian. He is a former Iranian ambassador to Germany and he served as a spokesman for Iran in nuclear talks with the European Union. He is a research scholar at Princeton University and his new book is Iran and the US, an insider's view on the failed past and the road to peace. Ambassador, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
You have been involved in these talks before. How do you see the current round develop? I mean, are the two sides going to be able to hammer out a deal?
Much better than we really expected up to here. I mean, the progress not only in the first phase, which ended to interim deal November 2013, went very well, but the progress after the deal, November deal, up to now is really great. And as far as I understand, at least 60% of the issues are already resolved. And they have already agreed to start drafting the final agreement. And I personally am optimistic they would be able to strike the final deal by July 20th.
Well, you sound optimistic there, but it looks like the negotiators on the two sides are not as hopeful. The BBC quotes a US official as warning against too much optimism. That's what he said. And Iran's foreign minister, Mohammad Javad Zarif, said that a lot of effort is going to be needed in these talks.
It is true. It is true. A lot of efforts needs to be done. But you know, the reason I'm optimistic is because already they have a common understanding on 4 principles, which these 4 principles are crucial to strike the final deal. Of course, the details need to be negotiated. First, for Iran to accept the maximum level of transparency and the inspection the International Atomic Energy Agency requires. The second principle is about, again, Iran to be flexible and cooperative on all confidence-building measures which would assure international community that Iranian nuclear program would remain peaceful forever. It means no breakout in a short time. This is 2 principles very critical for the world powers, which Iran principally have accepted. And there are 2 other principles for Iranians are very important. One is respecting the rights of Iran for peaceful nuclear technology, including enrichment, under non-proliferation treaty, and treat Iran at the end of the deal like other members of NPT. And the second principle important for Iranian is lifting the sanctions, unilateral, multilateral, and United Nations security sanctions, even gradually. These 4 principles are already agreed. Now they are discussing the technical issues, the details. On the details, already they have agreed about 60%, and of course 40% are left to be discussed.
Now, you've spent some time living in the United States. You returned to Tehran last year. What is the mood like in Tehran? Do you see a stronger desire now for some kind of settlement with the United States?
You know, the day the United States changed its position from no enrichment to no nuclear bomb, Iranians, they were really encouraged to go for a serious negotiation to final the deal. The reason during our time, 2003 to 2005, we failed, it was because the US position was zero enrichment in Iran, no enrichment. It was the red line. But in 2013, the US changed its position from zero enrichment to zero bomb, no nuclear bomb. Iranians have never had problem with no nuclear bomb as the red line. I think this was the most important issue encourage Iranian to be flexible on transparency measures and assurances on non-diversion toward weaponization.
Now, you were a member of the negotiating team during the talks that took place from 2003 to 2005, but then you ran afoul of the regime in Tehran at that time. You were arrested in 2007, found guilty, sentenced to 2 years in prison, and you were sentenced in 2 years in prison for, quote, endangering national security. What was that about?
First of all, I was just 10 days in prison, and then I was released on bail. It was not 2 years. The sentence they gave me was 5 years ban on diplomatic posts and 2 years suspended jail. It was not for me to go to jail for 2 years. The reason they gave me this verdict, because during my interrogation, I told them that I really oppose the nuclear policy of President Ahmadinejad, and I really oppose his policy on foreign relations. And I believe that his policy is not in the national interest of Iran. And therefore, the judge said, as far as you do not believe in the foreign policy of the president, therefore you cannot have a diplomatic post. This was, of course, clear, and even for me understandable. Neither the president was going to give me diplomatic post, nor I was prepared to accept any diplomatic post.
Ambassador, are you involved in the current talks that are taking place right now? Do you have any role in them whatsoever?
No, I do not have role. We have official negotiators, but I am informed about the procedure, about the process, and about the main elements they are discussing. Like many other former diplomats in the United States, which they are informed, and they are lobbying for a peaceful settlement. This is what I'm doing in public opinion and in seminars, conferences, on my writings, op-eds. This is what I do my best to help a peaceful solution on the nuclear issue.
Right, and that brings us to the book that you've written about future Iran-US relations. How do you see that?
You know, my first book, published in 2012, was about the Iranian nuclear crisis, and it was published in June 2012. At the end of the book, I have proposed a package for peaceful resolution of the nuclear crisis. And if you compare my proposal published in the book in 2012 with Geneva Agreement 2013, you would see the principles are completely the same. Now, I believe Iran-US relations are far more important than the nuclear crisis, although the both parties, they have to agree first on the nuclear, but the implication of a better relation between Iran and the US would have a huge impact on the regional issues like Syria, like Afghanistan, like Iraq, like security in Persian Gulf, a lot of other issues.
Okay.
Therefore, in my second book, I have discussed in length and detail why Iran-US have failed for a better relation, normal relation in the last 30 years, what are the root causes of mistrust, and why the previous policies have failed, and what is the roadmap to the future. Then I have proposed a comprehensive roadmap for Iran and the US for rapprochement.
Okay. Ambassador, I've got a question. I need a really quick answer. We've only got 10 seconds. When this deal is finally signed, will Iran still have a nuclear program, albeit a civilian one?
Iran would have nuclear program, peaceful nuclear program, like other members of NPT, nothing beyond.
Okay, sir. We're going to have to leave it there. Thanks for joining us. And that is it for this edition of The Heat. We would love to hear from you, so please send us your questions, comments, and story ideas to theheat@cctv-america.com. Once again, theheat@cctv-america.com. I'm Anand Naidoo in Washington, D.C. Thanks for watching.